What's up, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to reveal the exact sales framework that I have used to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for both my own agency and my clients' companies directly from Upwork. All right, so first, I'm going to go over the three things that you need to know in order to generate consistent sales on Upwork. And then after that, like I just mentioned, I'm going to go line by line through the exact framework that I've used to close deals worth $15,000 and more directly from Upwork. All right. So before we even dive into that, sales calls on Upwork are supposed to be easy, right? And it's for two main reasons. Number one, these prospects already know they need your service, right? Think about it. They've taken time out of their day to post a job seeking help to the problem they have, which leads me to thing number two, which is they're in a significant amount of pain, right? If you just think about this process, right? Someone has very clearly a significant problem, right? So they're taking the time out of their very busy day, right? These are business owners who are busy. They're taking the time to post a job on Upwork, seeking a solution to that big problem. And so we know two things. Number one, that they know they need our service. And number two, that they are in a significant amount of pain and they are actively seeking a solution to their problem, right? And so for those two reasons, sales calls on Upwork should be significantly easier than sales calls that come from cold outreach. And you should close at a significantly higher percentage than sales calls that come from cold outreach. All right. So with that being said, now I'm going to go over the three things that you need to know in order to close consistent sales on Upwork. So the first one is learn to develop strong rapport, right? Like we just covered, these people already know they need our service and they're already pretty educated on the service. Right. And so we don't need to spend hours and hours, going through pitch decks and talking to them about what our service includes and educating them, right? Like for the most part, they're pretty educated. And so we do need to put a major focus on developing strong rapport, right? Because people buy from people they like. And because we don't need to go over all this other stuff, like the exact details of our service, really in-depth examples, like we don't need to do that because again, they're educated. And so we have more time to develop rapport and get them to like us. And so we want to do that, right? And this is a skill, guys. This is not easy. This is something you have to practice. So you should be practicing small talk. You should be recording all of your sales and then watching the beginning and pay attention to two things: the tonality that you use and they use, and body language that again, you use and they use. And so if you make a small joke and you go back and you watch the recording and you can see yourself make that joke, and then you can see the prospect kind of cringe or like do something with his face or his body or whatever, you'll know like, oh, that was probably a terrible joke and I shouldn't make that again, right? So you can just continue to self-analyze if you guys are recording these calls, which is super, super important. Second thing is going to be to create a simple sales framework. And obviously this is going to be the main focus of this entire video. So I'm going to get to that in just a second. But once I give you guys this simple sales framework, you should practice it 2 to 3 times per day until you have it fully memorized, right? You should know this like the back of your hand. It should be just natural, second instinct. Then, like I already touched on, record all of your sales calls, record all of them. And this is really for two reasons. Number one, like we just said, it allows you to go back and watch them and self-analyze so that you can just continue improving and improving and improving. But the second thing is if you ever get on a cold streak, you can go back and you can watch the videos that resulted in sales, right? Like successful sales. And you can kind of get back into that rhythm. You can see, oh, hey, I made that joke and that guy really laughed, right? And then it turned into a sale, right? So you can just use that to kind of get back in your rhythm and get out of your cold streak if you ever get in one, right? So that's the second thing. And the third thing is going to be just to memorize your objection handles, right? And really, for the most part, 90% of objections you get that are on sales calls that come from Upwork will fall into two buckets. Number one is a time delay. So I need to think about it. I need to talk to other agencies, other freelancers, whatever else. And the other one is price, which is it's too expensive. It's not in our budget. We don't want to spend that much money, blah, 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 right? And so you should memorize both objection handles and then just practice them, right? And you'll just get better at them as you go on and do more of these sales calls. But to start, definitely memorize both of those objections. All right, so that being said, let's dive into the exact framework that I've used to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars from Upwork so you guys can do the same thing. And it's probably a lot simpler than you might even imagine, right? Because like we already covered, and I cannot stress this enough, guys. These people know they need our service. They're already completely sold on the service. So you don't need to sell them on that. You just need to sell them on you, right? because again, they know they need your service, but they also know that they're speaking to a handful of different freelancers or agencies. And so if you can stand out and they can like you the most, they're going to buy from you every time, right? And so that's why to start with the intro phase, we put a major focus on building rapport. So chit chat with them, get comfortable, ask them questions, ask them about their day, how they're doing, right? Things like that, just small talk. Then introduce yourself and ask them to introduce themselves and their company. And then I like to ask them, lastly, what made them post the job on Upwork, what their goals are, and what their pain points are. And both of those things are really important. Get their goals, get their pain points. Then we transition into the technical questions phase. And the purpose of the technical questions phase is super simple. We just want to confirm that they need our service, and we want to confirm exactly what they're looking for. And so obviously the exact questions you're going to be asking are going to be completely different depending on what service you're offering on Upwork. But I'll just give you an example. So when I was offering social media management on Upwork, these were the following questions that we would ask. So we'd say, do you already have content, or do you need us to create it? Do you have current accounts like, Twitter account and Instagram account, or do you need me to create them? And then which platforms do you guys need managed, right? It was really, really simple because by nature, social media management is pretty simple, right? But if you're offering custom software development, obviously your questions are going to be more complicated and you're going to ask a lot more of them, right? But in general, this phase should be probably no more than like 10 questions at the absolute maximum. But overall, we want to keep this pretty simple, and we just want to confirm that they need our service and exactly what they need, right? After that, I like to move into the recommendation phase. And so that's where I ask them if they've had a chance to check out my portfolio or my case studies or examples of my work. And then whether they say yes or no, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to pull up the most relevant example of my work, right? So the example that I think includes or is the closest to what they're looking for, right? And then I'm just going to ask them if this example contains everything that they're looking for. And the goal is to get a hypothetical yes, right? And so if they say yes, then I would say, well, from everything you've told me so far, I think that XYZ service, which includes, and then I would list out the deliverables, would be the best fit. Would you agree? And so, for example, if I was, selling social media management on a sales call from Upwork, I would say, from everything you've told me so far, I think that our base social media management package, which includes 3 posts a week on 3 different platforms, we're going to design all the posts and write all the copy and publish them and manage the calendar. I think that would be the best fit. Would you agree? Most times they're going to say yes, especially if you've done a good job developing rapport, listening to what they need, right? That's a really important part of sales. You should listen to them and understand their needs. If you've done that, most times people are going to say yes. Then just simply ask them if it's something they want to move forward with. Again, most times people are going to say yes, and then they're going to ask about the price. Then just simply tell them how much you guys charge. And if they seem skeptical, do a looping pattern, right? So what that means is go back, list out the deliverables again, explain why your services solve their problem and get them to accomplish their goals. Focus on the benefits, do not focus on the features, right? And then just ask them again, right? So the goal of the looping pattern is just to build up more confidence in them so that when you ask them again, that they say yes. And then if they say yes, simply walk them through the sales process, or the hiring process on Upwork, right? You want to make sure you collect payment on the call. Don't let them get off the call and say, oh, I need to think about it. I need to use a different card. Don't let them do that. Walk them through the hiring process on Upwork so you can collect payment on that call. And then in terms of objections, we already covered this a little bit, but on Upwork, you should only get 2 objections. That's price. Oh, your service is too expensive. We don't have that in our budget, blah, blah, blah. And the other one is time delay, which is like, I want to talk to other freelancers. I want to talk to other agencies. A really common one is they'll say, oh, well, I have another meeting scheduled with another freelancer. So I want to talk to them before I make a decision. And that's probably honestly like the most common objection you'll ever get on Upwork. For me, that was like 60 to 70% of objections. People would say, oh, we have another meeting with another agency or another freelancer that we met on Upwork. We want to talk to them before we make a decision. So for this, it's really simple. What I like to do is ask them when their last meeting is. So if, for example, I was having the sales call on a Wednesday, I would say, okay, awesome. When is your last meeting with that freelancer? They might say Friday. I would say, okay, awesome. well, why don't we do this? Why don't I do a complete free complimentary audit of your social media pages? That way, whether you go with me or somebody else, you have all the information you need to get you to your goals. And then I would say, and why don't we book a meeting for Monday so I can just kind of show that to you, right? That way you get a meeting booked in after their last call. And so if on their call on Friday, when they're talking to the other agency or the other freelancer, if that person goes for the close, they're probably still going to say, oh, well, this other guy did this free audit for me and I'm going to talk to him on Monday, right? And so that way you get a chance to be the last person they speak to, which is a huge advantage. And you get a chance to prove your worth, right? And I can't explain how well this has worked for us. We've closed thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in deals using this exact strategy, because when you do the audit for them or whatever else you want to incentivize them with, right? Whether it's an audit or a strategy call or whatever, once you're able to perform that and give them value upfront, they get a chance to experience your free service. And if you do a good job, what happens in their mind is they think, wow, this free service was so good. I can't imagine how good his paid service is, right? And then it's so easy to close them because, again, they already know they need your service, guys. They already know they need it. So we just have to get over a few bumps along the way, and these should be really, really easy deals to close. All right, guys. And so last thing I'll say is unless you are selling like really high ticket, like $5,000 a month and up, or maybe like $4,000 to $5,000 a month and up, you should be closing at least 20% on Upwork, right? At least, right? Again, these people know they need your service. You guys just have to follow this very, very simple framework, and you guys are going to close a ton of deals. I closed at about 35% on Upwork, and you can definitely achieve that. That's not some crazy thing. I'm not some crazy good salesperson. Like, I promise you guys, sales calls on Upwork are extremely easy if you follow this framework. All right. So that's all I've got for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be publishing 10 YouTube videos in the month of July. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.